This episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by the Dollar Shave Club. Guys, you don't need to choose between price and quality to get an amazing and affordable shave. DollarShaveClub.com is the answer. To prove how amazing the shave really is, right now they're going to give you your first month free to join the club. DollarShaveClub.com delivers amazing razors right to your door for a third of the price of what the greedy razor corporations charge. You need to join the club like I did. I've been looking damn good. Gia's been feeling up on my face, and she's like, damn, Tim, why are you so smooth? I'm like, Dollar Shave Club, baby. That's how it works. Go to Dollar Shave Club and pick a razor from their lineup of amazing blades. I've been using the Executive Blade with their Dr. Carver Shave Butter. And man, if you've never used shave butter, I'll tell you what, you got to try it. It's fantastic. The blade just gently glides with the smoothest shave I've ever had. Here is what you need to do. See why over 3 million members like me love the Dollar Shave Club. They're so confident in the quality of all their products. You can get your first month of the club for free. You just pay shipping. No big deal. After that, just a few bucks a month. No long-term commitment, no hidden fees. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/Gamescast. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Gamescast. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 94 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Hello, Tim.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
In a Vans shirt.
Vans shirt. I like this Vans
I've
shirt.
never noticed it was a Vans shirt before. You thought they only did shoes. Not no more, sir. They got shirts.
They make them shirts.
No
I
undershirt?
like it.
Or is it a
'cause it's
low?
half red, half blue. Looks purple. That's how that works.
Smart. That's a good point. I never thought that through. Wearing an undershirt or no undershirt? Is it a low undershirt? Usually
Low
I can see the
undershirt. It's the
undershirt.
low undershirt.
Here you're giving me a lot of skin. I like
You want
it.
that skin? Do you like that skin?
Kevin, give him the one shot there. Give him that skin. Give him the skin in the one shot. There it is. Look at that, Tim. Kind of Funny Gamescast. Every day, youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games. You don't have to rub it like that. That's not sexy. That's like you have that's like you have snot on you, we'll say. Or no, stop it. Stop doing that face. Definitely don't do that. That's definitely not what you wanted to do.
How are you doing, Colin?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. You guys been playing a lot of video games?
Yes.
I sure have.
Good.
I got 2 of the hardest fought platinum trophies the other night.
What did you get?
My name is Mayo, and then my name is Mayo again. PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, separate trophy list.
So what is this My Name is Mayo business?
This is an easy way to make money from trophy whores like myself, or people who care at all about trophies, just want simple trophies. 99 cents, cross buy, you get this game, 2 different trophy lists, and then you tap X. Or you tap the touchpad on the PlayStation 4.
Colin, do you have anything to do with this game?
No, I don't, believe it or not. I actually am
shocking.
struggling because apparently you can get the platinum in 45 minutes. You can get it on both platforms. I don't think I'm going to play it on principle.
You're not a trophy whore anymore. You're a trophy chaser.
Yeah, I was
Trophy
saying
hunter.
that I can easily pad my trophies and do that, but it just doesn't feel right.
It's going down a bad path.
Yeah,
It's like me
You
buying
came
an
back
amiibo.
from that.
yeah, it's like, what's the point?
I never came back from the bender of going for the easy platinums, doing the stuff.
I mean,
I
that
don't
was
have to work
years.
hard.
That was years ago.
I know, but you made a big deal one day where you're like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
No,
I'm
so
only
I'm-
getting platinums
I
I'm
respect you,
proud
Colin.
of.
Thank you. Yeah, so
Respect
I
decisions.
Thank you. So I played a lot of Titanfall 2, beat it on master difficulty.
I wasn't done talking about My Name is Mayo. So you put it into bikinis, sometimes a whipped cream bikini.
Well, you put the mayo in the bikinis?
Yes. You put it in a banana suit at one point, and then just tap-a-roo. Tapping it nonstop. Tap, 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 tap. It's just a jar of mayo, Tim. You put a costume
It's ridiculous
on
that it even exists. Like, I just
It
refuse
is.
to play it.
it. It is. It is ridiculous. I agree 100% with that. Like, if you thought Taco Master was bad, let me tell you about this other game. That isn't even a game. That's just tapping.
Tap, tap, tap.
Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
It's made for you, Greg.
Cool.
It is.
Cool. Well, okay, so Colin, Titanfall.
Titanfall, I beat it on master difficulty. Got all the collectibles.
And you agree with Greg Miller, right?
Yeah, I think that I think it's fine. I think it's a good game, a very good game. I just think that it's the people saying that this is like an amazing tour de force. I'm like, I don't think so. But I'm glad that if people like it. I also can't speak to the multiplayer component of it. I played one multiplayer match, pilots versus pilots. So I don't have a lot of perspective on that. And I didn't play the original game, so I'm not going to speak to that either. As we said on PS, I love you, but I have like 95 or 96% of the trophies. There's one trophy in there that's like really, really hard that I just don't think I'm going to get. So I think I'm just going to kind of let that one go. But it was I'm glad I played it. I enjoyed playing it. I just think the gunplay is good. I think being in Titan's a drag, which I know is weird because the whole thing is about that, or at least that's the hallmark of the game. I think that the pilot combat is great. I think it's fluid. I think it feels good. I think I never wanted to be in a Titan. Every time I got in a Titan, I was bummed that I was in it. So perhaps it's just not the game for me. And as I've started Call of Duty and I played that for 3 hours or so, it's just a far superior game. So at least in my perspective. So for a multitude of reasons actually, but so I really think that Titanfall, as far as the 3 shooters are concerned, having beaten two of them on the hardest difficulty and then playing one of them on veteran, which is the hardest difficulty. There's 2 difficulty levels that aren't even unlocked at the beginning. I don't know what they are, but
you get that YOLO mode, aren't you?
Yeah, I think YOLO mode's one, which is sounds.
Is it called YOLO mode?
Yeah, you only live once.
Wow.
So I feel like the trend has Call of Duty trending far ahead of Titanfall.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Call of Duty coming up, right? Because I have things to say about that too.
The second topic.
Second topic. Okay.
So
okay.
So I think that good time for shooters. If you like shooters, your multiplayer shooters, I'm sure I can't really speak to that again. But from the single player campaign perspective, I think Titanfall is the least interesting, and then I think Battlefield 1 obviously is there, and I think Call of Duty is. Someone said it, so I don't want to. It's not a unique thought necessarily. I don't know where I read it, but it doesn't even really feel like Call of Duty. That's what makes it so interesting.
You also played a bit of that NES Classic over the extra live stream.
Yeah, played quite a bit of it. It's great. Controllers cord is very it's
an issue.
It's actually like absurd. Like I don't even know what they were thinking. I don't even know what they were thinking with it. Why not even just make it wireless? But I think Nyko is doing third-party wireless controllers, which is cool. It's a nice little setup. I'm really especially excited for people that just don't have experience playing these old games to have an easy and nice way to play them as they are meant to be played. I played through all of Mega Man 2, for instance. It feels fantastic. I played Super Mario 3 for a while, played Super Mario 1 for a while, played Castlevania 2, played The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, played...
Are there games in this machine that aren't available on Virtual Console?
Well, I think the important thing is that they are recreated more faithfully than they are in Virtual Console. Virtual Console is really dull, and the colors are just... It's like the brightness is turned down on a lot of the things. So it's like these are like how they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of just, I don't get the appeal from getting to play these games again standpoint, but having them all in one place with the original controller.
Yeah, the original
and all
controller,
that stuff.
especially like we were talking during the unboxing, having a controller that isn't all gross and yellow and isn't worn out as all shit. Like that's cool. And I understand the form factor is cool. But yeah, just the excitement surrounding it as an outsider who has no nostalgia for the NES. I'm just like, haven't you been able to play these games for a while?
Yeah, but I think it is having all of them in one place that's not the Wii U or the Wii. I think that it goes a long way for Nintendo to distance themselves from those systems because people hate them so much. So it's like this just being hey, here's the stuff you like. Just take it. I think
it's definitely a way more easy entry point. I understand for people who are lapsed gamers who have great memories of these and want it for just $60.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I disagree with you guys. I think it's in terms of I understand exactly why people want it. There's no a combination of better, more important games anywhere than what's on this particular piece of hardware. Like if you look at the top 25 or even 50 games of all time, more than about half of them are on that thing. It's pretty significant actually. Mario 3 is on there, original Mario, 2 Castlevania games, a Mega Man game, Ninja Gaiden. I mean, there's really 2 Zelda games. For people that that's what I was saying. For people that have these games or have access to them, I guess you don't really need it unless you want to have some kind of cheap. I mean, it's cheap. It's not really going to break the bank. But for newer gamers or for younger gamers or for less experienced gamers, I think that this is an amazing purchase. I can't think of a better deal actually than the amount of the original Final Fantasies on this thing. It's a lot of bang for your buck here. I think it makes perfect sense, and I hope it does really well. I hope we get more of them.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I mean,
I don't know what you're disagreeing with. I was asking just be explained why it's important.
I just think that all the games are available in other places, but they are better on this than they are there. The cord thing is a really weird misstep for Nintendo. That, and I think that they're going to have a lot of issues with keeping up with demand of it. But
yeah, sure,
that's a classic Nintendo.
What do they care?
Problem.
Yeah, they have a hot toy for Christmas. Great.
Yep, sell it out and call it a day.
Yeah.
Also, other things that happened: Mass Effect Day. There was a cinematic trailer, and they announced the trilogy backwards compatibility on the Xbox One. What do you guys think of the trailer?
Fine,
it's fine. I don't even really want to see anything else, to be honest. I'm good.
I was alarmed there wasn't more to it. I thought there would be more gameplay in it. I thought there'd be a release date. I'm not confident that they're going to hit the spring thing. I think that they're letting the bad news sit for as long as possible, but we'll see. I heard rumors from, in the chat or whatever, people talking about obviously there's the whole Game Informer layout, but then there's supposed to be more, I guess, at Game Awards, the chat was telling me. So remains to be seen. I mean, it's Mass Effect. I'm excited. The storyline sounds cool. You know what I mean? That, hey, we got sent out there and you're the, the child of these people and you're the Pathfinder now. That's you. You got to go out there and, continue humanity, continue this mission. That sounds really cool. I'm excited to see what that's about.
The trailer did end saying spring 2017. Do you think that they would have not had that if they didn't think they'd hit it?
Yeah. I mean, companies lie to you all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. They put out release dates and release windows they know they're not going to hit, but they continue on. This is like the fucking Persona argument, right? Where I was like, there's no way Persona... Oh, no, but they say... The website says this year. I'm like, all right, hold your breath. See what happens.
We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week we get together, talk about video games, all the things we love about them. If you want to get it early, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. If not, you can just get it later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Either way, we love you and support you in your decisions in life. Greg.
Yeah.
You've been playing a little bit of that Watch Dogs 2.
Watch Dogs 2.
How many hours you put into it?
I would say 2 hours of
2
Watch
hours,
Dogs 2
okay.
has been logged so far.
You got it this morning?
No, I got it last night, and then internet was running like garbage at home, so it took forever to download, but I still put in 45 minutes an hour, and then I got in early to work today, and I've been playing whenever I have the
I want to hear
downtime.
everything you have to say.
You are
about
going to
it.
love this game.
Me, personally?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a Tim Gettys ass game in terms of everything that's happening in it. I was just playing it a second ago, and what I was thinking about is, and this is going to sound weird, so stick with me. In terms of, and I'm talking about probably PS3 on, GTA jumped out, right? It started trying to be grounded and real. Like when you think of Nico and you think of GTA 4, right? And I'm not talking about the DLC, which I guess is a little bit different, but those worlds they were trying to make feel real. And then when they come out with GTA 5, it's bright, but it's not, it's, still dealing, and it's got the GTA funniness and the commentary on society, but it's all over. Like, it's like, this for some reason, what I'm playing with the Watch Dogs right now reminds me of the PS2 GTAs on a current console in terms of it is a bright, fun story. You have my problem with Watch Dogs 1, right, was we're Aiden and we have some horrible, I think it was his nephew was killed or whatever. So there's this like dark cloud of like why you're out doing all this shit. Whereas here, you're this hacker, right? You're retro. You join up with this other group of hackers, and then granted, the story is just getting started. Where we're out having fun and we're out doing this, and the worlds are colorful. Immediately, it tells you to go to the store and buy clothes. There's all these cool outfits to get, and not cool like I'm in a chicken suit. Like holy shit, this is a really nice suit, or that's a really cool thing. All the outfits look like Tim Gettys outfits in this one store I'm in. I was like, these are all fucking straight up Tim Gettys.
Like
this is what he would wear. It's fun to jump around and have fun and be encouraged to have fun in the game, if that makes sense. Where, like I was telling you when you got here today, like one of the things is they send me out of DedSec headquarters. I go on my first thing, and they're explaining the game to you and like what's happening right now in the story is I've been initiated into this hacker group DedSec in a bunch of quick cutscenes or whatever. Like okay, cool. I have a one night stand. It doesn't matter at all. That's just like setting it up to get us to the Watch Dogs graphic, and we go into the story. But like, I'm hanging out with these other groups of hackers, this other group of hackers. They're cool people. They send me out. The whole thing we're doing is we need to get the DedSec app onto as many people's phones as possible, and that will give us their computing power so we become stronger and we can do more and expand out our thing. We're not doing it against their will. People understand when they, like DedSec's like, this renegade organization. People know what they're doing when they download it. But it's about getting followers. So there's this weird social media commentary on it of like, there's the crazy thing is to go out there to get DedSec's name in the press of, doing this goofy thing or taking this thing down. But then there is, okay, cool. There's these different spots around San Francisco that, you go up and you take a photo of, or you take a photo of yourself with, and then you post them onto the social media thing there. And then you expand out that way. The whole thing, I always thought in both GTA, 4 and GTA 5, the phone was clunky. It didn't feel like a real phone. The phone I'm using in this game feels real, and it's like when it vibrates, it sounds perfect, and it's giving me actual information I need to do. I go into, you can pull up your maps when you're driving, right? Like you have your own MP3 player on there, an app you buy right away for like $3 or whatever, not real money, in-game money. You're driving around, but as you drive around, right, like you'll hear a new song and your phone will vibrate and tell you it's a new thing. So you stop and you pull out your Shazam app, and then that adds it to your things. Like you're collecting songs throughout the world and shit. But then there is the just social media aspect of it. Okay, cool. I'm going to do this and running around doing that. It feels like not the farcical, Los Santos world of GTA, but a more colorful San Francisco, at least for where I am right now. Again, this is all based on 2 hours. Maybe it gets super crazy and all these different things. But running around, doing all these different things, it's fun. For me with Watch Dogs 1, the hacking never felt natural. It never felt fun. Like turning on the lights, turning off the lights, whatever the hell that is, right? I'm surprised by how much I am enjoying moment-to-moment mission gameplay right now. Because like when we went and did the Let's Play, we talk about it all the time, right? And by the way, that Let's Play was sponsored. This is not sponsored. Ubisoft just, gave us the game to talk about. And like we review games. And when we did that Let's Play, though, we just fucked around. We just drove around San Francisco. What does San Francisco look like? How do we interact with different people and do all these different things? What happens to them? Now that I'm actually going through it, I'm surprised at how much fun it is to be this character of Retro and come into a thing and be like, all right, cool. Go up in the camera, see how many people there are, see what I can interact with, fuck it up, come back in after getting shot, figure out, okay, well, if I set both of these traps to explode and I call one guy here and set this one to proximity when it comes through, that stupid little robot car we had that like
jumps around.
Yeah, and like they dropped us, whatever, it was 5 hours in the game. We had everything. We know how to use anything. Using that now, like, we had 15 minutes before the show and I finished a mission. So then it was, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go find these research things I need and just start clearing the map that way and going over there and getting there. And it's like that. It's one of those good video game mechanics of it's a 3-dimensional puzzle where I pull up and inside that building is what I need, but how the hell do I get up there? Oh, if I hack that, I can go up there, but I go up there and that door's locked. So now I got to follow the line back over there, back down, drop the robot in, go in there. He hacks something. Like, it's scratching something that I needed scratched. I you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing with like all the shooters I've been playing. I'm not the shooter guy, but I'm just anxious to play something. I want to play stuff, obviously. I want to see what people are talking about. But here we are in a game that I already love the world. I already love the characters. I already love how much fun it is, and it's third person, which is like what I want out of my games, obviously, usually.
Yeah, I mean, you're always really big on kind of the open world, third person games, which is like a lot of things to collect, the Ubisoft games.
Totally.
And I think that Watch Dogs 2 has a lot riding on it in terms of people talk about Assassin's Creed 1 to 2 and Watch Dogs 1 to 2. There's a lot of expectations there. So it's scratching that itch for you, but do you think that it's going to satisfy the people that are looking for it to fix the problems of the first one?
Hard to say. 2 hours in, I think it has a shot at it. And I think part of that is that I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, Tim, that expectations are, if not non-existent, lower for this. I don't think people are looking at this the way they looked at Assassin's Creed 2. I think that it's actually been one of those games that we kept forgetting about. What are the big games coming out? Oh, Gears and Call of Duty. And then somebody will be like, oh, fuck, Watch Dogs 2. Oh, yeah, Watch Dogs 2. Why haven't we seen it? What's going on with that? Where is it? Why aren't we getting more from that? And so I kept saying, after we got burned with Mafia, that I was like really looking forward to Watch Dogs 2. We had played enough that I was interested mechanically in it, in the world of it. Was it going to pan out as a game? I don't know. But yeah, after 2 hours with it, I want to, I brought my console from home today rather than risk having bad internet here and not being able to download it. Like, I want to play this game when I have all the free time. And it is that thing of like, it's just something, it sounds so stupid to keep saying, but it's fun. It's a third person open world fun thing where it's not bogged down in I'm Michael and I'm dealing with my shitty kids, or Trevor's crazy and having sex and might have raped that person, or Nico and everything that's going on in Nico's life, right? It is very much like, whoa, yeah, blah, blah, and we're talking. Like, I think I brought up and then immediately got off of it. But the first thing I told you was the fact that, like, they got there, I went out on a mission, I started doing it, and then I got the next mission popped up, and it was hey guys, the new trailer for this movie we all love just dropped. Do you want to come watch it? Yeah, and that became a mission. And you drive back there, and you get there, and you get a little fun cutscene of them being like, all right, show me on the laptop. No, laptop. Come sit down. We need good lights. We need good speakers. Blah blah. And you sit down. They all make fun of the trailer, and then they're like, well, I want to go do this, and that leads into a mission about that. But it's not stupid, but it's not super serious, if that makes sense. And like, I just put up the post not too long ago that got good traction on Twitter, right? About the whole, like, if you're going to fucking do audio logs in a video game to round out your world, make them play as I go. Game nails that in the way of, like, I'm walking and, like, you can hack anybody you want. And so I'm just hacking strangers and, like, all right, yeah, let me read your text message. You're listening in your phone call, right? And it pops up in a little, like, Dead Space 3-dimensional window that would be my phone or whatever down here. And I can just let go of L1 and keep walking, and the whole conversation plays out. Or, I was downstairs and I hacked an iPad, and then it brought up a news video about what's happening in the world and talking about how, this I think Congresswoman or whatever just had all of a sudden, got on the bad side of somebody else, and they leaked her records about being transgender or whatever, and it was this, like, huge. But it's just playing as I walk around and explore the environment, and, like, it's not stopping me. It's especially in an open world game where I'm stealing a car and I'm doing this and I'm hacking a light and I'm going there and I'm shazamming the fucking song as I drive. Like, so far it's all been really, really seamless, and I'm excited to explore the skill tree. That's one of those ones where you get the research points that I was farming before I came in here. Jumping in and, like, do I want to put them into combat or hacking or this? Like, something about the hacking in Watch Dogs 1 just wasn't fun to me. And I gave that, I gave that more time than where I am right now with Watch Dogs 2. I want to say I gave it like 4 or 5 hours where I was just like, this game, I see where you're going, but it's not fully cooked. Right now, it seems like they got a really good idea. They have a really good cast of characters, and I'm excited to see what happens with it. And I'm enjoying playing it.
So there's going to be a lot of comparisons to GTA, obviously, with this game. But for me, GTA, I've always enjoyed just kind of running around having fun a lot more in the world than doing the actual missions. But even then, GTA does a really good job, I think, of having its campaign like guide me in a way that is fun and teaches you all the different mechanics and stuff. But then every once in a while, a mission would come up where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this mission. And Watch Dogs 2, from a lot of the E3 demos that we've seen, like specifically last year's E3.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's like the hover thingy.
Exactly. You jump off you're on a crane at one point, but then you come down and it's like a glassed in like campaign office or some shit.
And there's like the drone that you go in with all that.
Yeah.
I was looking at it and it was just like, this is boring. I don't want, like, this is a mission I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Playing through it, are those moments more fun than they seemed?
Well, from what I'm getting out of it, and this is early, like we keep saying, because I'm sure by the time this will post, obviously, but then P.S. I Love You, XOXO, next week on the Tuesday episode, I'm sure I'll be hours into this and have more to say. It really comes off right now as far as how do you want to tackle it? Because for me in that demo, it was always weird to see him slinking around in the campaign office with his gun drawn, right, and popping up and shooting after doing the whole drone thing. And I was like, that doesn't fit what this is. And so without the game beating me over the head with it, I'm not playing that way, right? Like there was a thing where I got in there and, I'm setting off all the traps and I'm setting off my little drone guy and like I'm doing it without it being like, Thief or Dishonored. I'm doing the stealth playthrough and I'm doing it because that's that character to me. And so it's really foreign for me to pull out my gun and like, I shoot somebody. I'm like, oh fuck, right? I just killed somebody. I'm like, did I fail the mission? Oh no, that in that world, this world is fine. It's just, that's not how I'm playing it. So like, I think a good example of it, right, is like I went there, I scoped out this entire area, right? I bopped around the security cams, I set some traps, and then I, went up and dropped the robot car guy, because that's all I have right now. And I drove that around, right? And when it was done, I got in there, I hacked the thing I needed, and he can pick stuff up. So if you're collecting something, the little guy picks it up. And then I, hit the button to come back, and what for me defines the character so far is he's sitting there Indian style on his laptop. You know what I mean? Like that's how I went through. I didn't go through guns blazing. I didn't go through choking people out. Like I distracted them. The first thing I put my research points into was being able to distract them on their phone, so that when I do want to get deeper in, I can get through there. You can electrocute them, stun gun if like in the worst case scenario. But even that so far seems super foreign. I'm sure as we get in, it's going to be, here's this place with 17 people. But even the first real mission of like proving yourself to them, I was doing the stealth route of it. I wasn't going in guns blazing.
The biggest criticism I had when we played that hour or two, whatever, last time was that it was really overwhelming in terms of controls.
Yeah.
There was so much in terms of hacking. Hacking a car is different than hacking a phone, is different than hacking these electrical lines or whatever. In addition to that, there's driving, and then there's the running and the shooting, and then there's the car mechanics, and there was just a lot. And they dropped us in 5 hours in. So
that was the problem. So far, that's not the thing. And it's like, it's for me, it is that moment of like, oh, this is how we should have done that when we didn't know what was going on. And I remember the guy giving me the demo. I think the director was in there talking to me while I was doing it. I kept confusing if I need to hit L1 or R1, right? So I was like fucking everything up and like throwing drones out when I shouldn't be doing that. Right now, they're starting you off so simply where it is like, all right, cool, you can hack it, but you only can steal their money or you can, read their text. It's not like I can get in really nitty gritty yet, but I've, now as I start unlocking the tree, right? Like I didn't have any kind of grenades or anything, or I think, but now I have these ones that distract you, and then I upgraded that again so I could throw it out and like set off like a pulse that knocks everybody out and stuff like that. So so far it's gonna be good. And by the time we get to where we were 5 hours in, and I'm sure even then we were souped up, theoretically I should know what I'm doing. But no, I haven't. Right now, I haven't been driving through the city totally fucking up like we were all the time. You know what I mean? Like it is that thing where I don't even have the ability, yet to shoot the poles out of the ground to like stop cars. Like that's the thing. Like I think right now I can change the lights and I can set off like steam explosions and stuff if I go past one of those steam grates or whatever in the car. So it is that very much training wheels. Let's get you going and get you off and then figure it out.
Always down to get off.
Oh, come on now.
Any thoughts on the game at all?
I haven't played it. I can't bring myself to really be too interested in it. I've somewhat ebbed and flowed. I honestly think that Watch Dogs 2 has missed its window to even be relevant. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I think that it's not even necessarily the time in which it's being released, which is November. I think is a safe time to release a game like this. I just think the original Watch Dogs was such a letdown for a lot of people, I think, because it was this, again, game that was overhyped by a lot of media, and people were just excited to see what it was all about, and it just didn't deliver for a lot of people. I mean, I know some people love it, but most people don't. I think that there's just too much other stuff to play. So I'd be really shocked if this game had any sort of resonance at all, and did very well. But like any other game, I hope it does well, and I hope people do enjoy it. But I do think it's going to suffer because of not necessarily what's surrounding it, but again because I just don't think Watch Dogs is a thing.
See,
but maybe I'm wrong.
I think what it's got going for it is that it's different. It isn't another shooter. I'm the third person action guy, right? And it's like, what do I have this fall? I have Batman, which I've played before. I have Tomb Raider, which I've played before. Uncharted, is out for the holiday. But if you're looking for that third person, here's this, game set in, guess Last Guardian down there, but even that's not what this is, right? This open worldy thing. I think this has a chance in a very interesting, different way to kind of have that Dead Island vibe to it, where it's like, oh, hey, this is something. It's not, based on what I'm playing, I'm like, this is a fucking 10, right? But it is, oh, this is a really great third person action game. Well, I didn't expect this right now. This is fun, and if that's what you're looking for, that's what you come for.
Very cool. Next topic of the day, brought to you by you over on Patreon. And of course, Steven Insler. Shout out to Steven Insler, Patreon producer for month 9,302. But also, thank you all for supporting us at the $20 and above level.
To get your name on the bar?
Patreon? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever. Thank you for being awesome. Your names will be there thanks to Kevin's amazing editing skills.
All your October support.
Yes, all of your October support. But Colin, you were mentioning earlier that it's been a really good year for shooters.
It's been a great year for shooters.
Single player campaigns and multiplayer for a lot of people out there. And even you guys are talking about Titanfall, not necessarily being your guys' cup of tea, but it's like people seem to be really enjoying
It's
the
also-
campaign.
it's also
Titanfall is a good game.
Yeah, and
Titanfall is even a great game, but it's just not as good as people are saying it, which is why we keep getting hung up on it.
Definitely not.
That's great. So from I'm almost done with the Battlefield 1 campaign, and it's fantastic. Hearing nothing but good things about the Call of Duty campaign.
good.
It's very good.
So Colin, that's what I want to talk about. Call of Duty.
So
What do you
Infinite
think?
Warfare. So I booted it up yesterday. I was waiting for we're recording this the day after the election. I was waiting for the results to come in. Obviously, this happens a little bit earlier in California because of the timing. So I had woken up. I was going through email, doing a little bit of work, and then I was like, I'm just gonna pop this in. I had installed it, and so I put about 3 hours into it or so. So not enough time to have a comprehensive review of the game yet, but playing it on veteran as well. So I'm moving somewhat slowly because I do like to play my games, my shooters on harder difficulties. Just because I think people say it ruins the pacing. I actually think it makes the pacing more realistic. So my thoughts on the game are great story and premise. The idea is very cool. It's about Earth, basically humans leaving Earth and kind of exploring the solar system, similar to Mass Effect. But in this respect, they're searching for goods or precious minerals, whatever gases that they need to survive. The Earth is just too swamped with people. There's not enough there for everyone. So what ends up happening is that they go to places like Europa. They really go to like all the planets, all the system, all the like the planets, and there's a rogue part of this group that basically splinters off and wants nothing to do with Earth anymore, and basically is like the spaceborne kind of group. And they launch an attack on Earth during a Fleet Week like thing where they're showing off all their equipment and
All
having
the
a good
ships
time.
are in one
Yep.
place. Yeah.
Similar to Battlestar Galactica, actually. And although they're not using AI, they're basically doing it overtly with attacks. And I liked the way it starts. I liked what it's all about. I think it's a very interesting game from a plot perspective. I think in this respect, it destroys Titanfall. And I think Greg might agree. Like Titanfall 2's story, I wasn't playing it for the story. In fact, I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care about what was happening. We discussed on PS I Love You that Titanfall 2 had this very peculiar thing it was doing where it would introduce these pretty cool bad guys, a very Metal Gear Solid-like cast of characters that each had like their own unique
Quirks.
Titan and their quirks, and it was like a group. It was like Metal Gear Solid 1 or 2, really, in that respect. But there was no reason for them to be there. You didn't know who they were. You would just fight them. They'd be dead. They'd show up out of nowhere. There was no context. By the time I got to the end of the game, I had no idea who the person I was even fighting was. Now, that could be on me, I'm sure, in some respect as well, but it just goes to show you the looseness and the non-importance of the plot. I think that you play Titanfall 2 because the game feels good. And I think with Call of Duty, you play the game because it feels good. With Infinite Warfare, you play the game because it feels good and because there's an interesting story and there's an interesting hook. I think that, I don't know how Greg feels about this, but I think that Titanfall 2 goes too far into parkour. I think that parkour and kind of sudden movements in platforming in first person is difficult, and not necessarily in terms of mechanics, but in terms of just understanding. You don't have the proper perspective to know where you are, and I don't think the games work like that. And so, Infinite Warfare takes some of what Titanfall does, but not all of it. It is 25% of that, as opposed to Titanfall's kind of more willy-nilly fast movement. And so double jumping and stuff like that feels good in the game, but I don't have to like run along walls necessarily, or do all these kinds of things all the time. It just doesn't, and there's not these long stretches of platforming to show it off. So I like that particular component of the game. I think the AI is somewhat intelligent on Veteran. There are different kinds of enemies. The game feels a lot actually like Titanfall in some ways in terms of the enemy variety that you're receiving, that you're kind of dealing with and all this. The one cool thing about it, and I said it earlier in the first topic, and again, not a unique thought, wish I remember where I read it. I think it was just on Twitter in a comment somewhere, where they're saying like, this doesn't feel like Call of Duty, and it doesn't. Mechanically, gunplay feels great. It feels like Call of Duty, a diverse array of guns, all these kinds of things, very smooth gameplay. I've said it before, I'll say it again, every shooter should strive to feel like this. But the structure of the quests, the non-linearity of the game is very unique for Call of Duty. You go to your ship and you can basically have a Mass Effect-like map of the system. And I don't know if you got this far or whatever, where you can choose different missions and do them in certain orders. And there are people of consequence. I forget what they call them. It's like a most wanted list. And you're going after these different people, and you're finding weapon upgrades along the way. There's no intel to find just randomly. Now you're finding armories things
that matter for the game, the story you're playing,
that make your character stronger in some way, give you better defense or better buffs or whatever it might be. Your grenades are stronger, whatever happens to be. I just feel like the game is more fleshed out. It's more fully realized. It reminds me that, because I didn't play Call of Duty too deeply in Black Ops 3. I think it was last year. That was the first one I didn't play the campaign for many years, actually. I can't even remember the last time I didn't play a Call of Duty campaign. I played Zombies on that one, but we just moved on. There was a lot of things happening in November last year, October. So I just didn't get to it. So I can't quite compare it to that. But there seems to be deeper systems at work in this particular Call of Duty than I had ever seen in a Call of Duty game before. And I think, we talk a lot about stagnation. Activision itself has said that they expect this game to sell less than Black Ops 3 because of the resonance of the Black Ops sub-franchise within Call of Duty. Also the fact that, Treyarch is now the favorite child suddenly with Call of Duty fans, as opposed to IW, which puts out this particular game. And so they expect the sales drop off. The game sold 50% as well in the UK the first week, but still is the second biggest selling launch in the year behind FIFA. So people are still playing it. It destroyed Titanfall, for instance. It beat Battlefield. So the game's trajectory is good. I think what's here is something that's going to surprise people. Now, I don't know if the game falls off. I don't know how long it is. I don't have any of that information yet. But based on what I've played so far, I really, really like it. And I knew I was going to like it, but I was shocked about how good it is, and truth be told, how superior it is to Titanfall.
That's the big takeaway.
And that's it. I mean,
we had talked about Titanfall on this show. We talked about it on PS I Love You, and I was just like, I don't get what people see in this campaign, why they think it's amazing. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I disagree. I like the wall running and jumping. I love it in Titanfall, and I think it's fine. It's used well in Call of Duty as well. Not nearly as much, obviously, but when I started Call of Duty the first day we got it and then dropped off, and when I came back to Call of Duty, it was immediately, right, that's Omar, this is this guy, my guy's dead or whatever over there, so now I'm doing this robot, oh, how are they going to I was like, immediately like, this story is still awesome, this world's still awesome, I remember what's happening, where Titanfall was always just like, all right, BD and I are running around, he's okay, whatever, why are we, okay, the masked woman's here, let's fight her, okay, whatever.
Yeah, like we don't really know why, like what this game sets up, that was the thing with Titanfall that really frustrated me, was that the ball was like right over the plate with the story, and they just missed. And with this, just the way it's set up, Taylor from Naughty Dog wrote this story or helped write this story, and you can tell that there's just more care and more love put into this story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the environments, right? Like that's what I was telling you. That like when I was a bit ahead of you, of just like. In Titanfall, the environments were beautiful and I ran through, but there wasn't that environmental storytelling. And like in this one, when you first off, I mean, like the whole opening section, right? From the Fleet Wheat thing to the battle on the ground, to into your jackal, to onto the thing, and then off the ship, and then onto the moon. Like
That's an awesome fucking sequence. That's all fucking gas. You know what I mean? And when you get to the moon and you get in, you get to the interplanetary port that's like a visitor center, and you get in there. I stopped, like they all ran ahead, and I just stopped and like walked through this exhibit of like the history of space travel on the moon. And so like there's the lander there and the original suits, and then you go, and then there's this like video wall that has like the timeline, the fictionalized timeline of space travel that would got them there. And it's like to go from like World War I, World War II into the Apollo program, blah, blah, and you're just reading it, it's like, this is fucking awesome. Like, what a great fleshed out environment this is. What this world is to make me care so much about what's happening already.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it's an impressive kind of thing. I like the customization. I like it's just not mission to mission. It's not there's a, like Greg was saying, there's a tether that pulls all of this together that gives it a great scale. And obviously you're going to have a bigger scale in a game like this that you might have had in a game like World at War had scale, or Black Ops had scale, where it was like, you're going from different times or different locations, different beachheads and all those kinds of things. But here you're exploring the totality of the solar system, which I think is really cool. But also the idea, the Mass Effect influence here can't be overstated. I think not only because of the thematics of going to space and discovering fucked up things, which is what Mass Effect basically was about, but with the Protheans and all of this, it's not quite that deep. But when you go to that galactic map or that solar system map in the game, I'm like, this, and you go over a planet and it's giving you little write-ups and stuff like that. It's Mass Effect, and I thought that was really interesting. I also like walking around this. You can go into you have like your own chambers similar to Mass Effect, where you can go on a computer and read about people and listen to voice recordings and all this kind of stuff. You can go to the armory and customize your loadout. So the game's not just putting you into missions and these are the weapons you have, these weapons you find. Now you can be like, I want this pistol, I need this scope, I need all of these kinds of things, and the game will tell you like that doesn't necessarily make any sense. Like you need laser weapons here, but they'll be like, no, so you can override that, which I think is really cool. The collectible aspect of the game, in addition to the armories and finding these new loadouts, is you find weapons that enemies drop and they glow the first time you see them before you pick them up. And when you pick them up, you scan the weapon, which I think is really cool. Then the weapon is sent for like digital printing basically to your ship, and you can just use that gun whenever you want. So if you're very thorough and you see a gun in the corner that some droid or whatever had dropped, and you pick it up, and then that's automatically learned. You might not use it ever again. You may use it again. I don't know. But I really do dig that particular aspect of it. And I give Infinity Ward a lot of credit, because I think that this is I don't want to say a quantum leap forward, because I just don't have the knowledge base of last year's Call of Duty to say that. Again, that wasn't their game, of course. That was Treyarch's game. But I feel like Call of Duty is doesn't seem as stagnant as people would say it is. And I don't think we need one of these games every year. I think it would be very bold of Activision to one day be like, we're just going to make a Call of Duty platform, or release a new campaign a year or whatever, we'll release new maps. But you just have this kind of static thing, it's Call of Duty, and then there's different things. I like to see them do that. I think it would be very pro-consumer, but I really like what they've done, and I hope the game is in the middle and the end as good as it has been in these first few hours, because it's astonishingly good. Now, how does it compare to Doom? They're different kinds of games. I think that on a mechanical level, Call of Duty and Doom are clearly the superior shooters of the year. They're just very different. Doom is fucking fast, way faster than Call of Duty, and Call of Duty's fast. While Battlefield's a little more realistic and plotting, I think Titanfall obviously is more parkour based and also kind of more dynamic with Titan combat as well. To the point of flying in your ship, whatever, because you're basically flying a fighter jet for like a ship. That reminds me a lot of the Titans in Titanfall 2. When I'm on nothing, I don't want to be in it. I wish that studios would learn to focus on what is good about the game, that we don't need some sort of diverse perspective in terms of gameplay experiences to make the game dynamic or good. I'd rather have 12 hours of solid on-foot play than ever being a Titan in Titanfall 2. I'd rather have 10 or 12 hours of solid on-foot gameplay than ever being in one of those ships in Call of Duty. So I wish that they would just focus on what's good, and you can still put you in space and do all these. There's a lot of zero-G fighting. There's cool weapons like grenades that remove gravity and stuff. There's a lot of cool things in there, but I wish that they would just kind of focus a little bit more instead of trying to be broad. This isn't I'm not trying to play a flight sim. You know what I mean? And so it's a little bit obnoxious in that sense. Not nearly as annoying as the Titan fights for me, but certainly a problem. So I'm sure, like Greg said, well, PS I Love You next week, we'll both have beaten it, I'm sure, and we could talk about it in a more thorough way.
Have you guys come across Kit Harington's character yet?
Oh, yeah. He's introduced super early.
Is it cool, or is it
I think it's cool.
It looks like him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, he's going. Jon Snow is the villain. Okay,
Jon
cool.
Snow.
Jon Snow.
But it's not like it didn't pull me out of it. But I mean,
Cool.
you know, Call of Duties are in these giant, you know, action movies, right? These, so I expect to see movie stars in them or whatever. So far, his performance is good. I like the motivation of his character.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's all about separatists. The story is not unique, maybe, but certainly there. And I really just don't feel like it was there in Titanfall. You know,
No, I agree with that 100%.
Titanfall 2. That is, I didn't play Titanfall 1.
Well, there was no story in Titanfall 1.
Next topic. On November 11th, 2006 in Japan, and November 17th, 2006 in North America, the PlayStation 3 launched. Similar to what we did with the N64.
$599 US.
A couple months back, I want to kind of, reminisce about our memories of the PlayStation 3 and the last 10 years of it. I feel like specifically for you guys,
Yeah.
it meant a lot.
Well, sure. In a very weird, interesting way, right? I mean, my PS3 memory starts with them announcing that at that E3 and me being like, no fucking way. I had a PS2. I loved my PS2. I was a PlayStation 2 gamer, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? That much money for this? No, there's no way I'm buying that at launch. And then for me, unheard of happened in like Nintendo announces their console, and I'm like, oh, it's SD. It just uses Wi-Fi if you have it or whatever, because I didn't have Ethernet and I didn't have an HD TV back then. I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. It's how much money? Oh, sure. It's this new way to play games. It's all these cool things. I can play all these old NES games I never got the chance to play when I was a Sega kid. Yeah, I'm going to buy that. And I went to, the GameStop in Columbia, Missouri, camped out in line to pre-order. And then just, I would then get to come pick it up, right? And so I did that, months in advance. And then for the Columbia Daily Tribune, I came back and I covered the PlayStation 3 line at Best Buy, and then when that went up at midnight or whatever it was, I went over and bought my Wii, from the GameStop across the street, where there was like just people who had camped out before walking in and walking out. And I remember what threw me, and what was my first sign of like, is that for PlayStation 2, right? Like, bought it at launch, camped out. It was my first major purchase. That entire line, we were all so into it. We were so excited to get this system. But as I'm sure you guys recall, that was, for me, and maybe it'll be different for you guys, that was the first time I remember when you bought it and you took it home and opened it up, what a hot item it was. And then when the not black market, but the scalper market really started to take hold, right? And when we were in line for the PS3 and I was interviewing all these people, because I wasn't buying one, I'm interviewing all these people outside of Best Buy. I went down the line, I'm talking to all these people, and none of them were there to have a PS3. They were all there to buy the PS3 to flip it and sell it. Whereas the Nintendo line I'd been in, a month prior, was all people who were excited about it. Then you jump into pre-order the Nintendo line. Then the PS3 line here, there was one kid in there who was buying it for himself, and I was like, that seems like a huge fucking problem. Why would that be the case? And so when it came out and then nobody liked it, it was too much money. Like, I had one friend who bought it in Columbia, Missouri, that was like buying the PS3 for the PS3 and was excited about the PS3. And so for me, it went that comes out in November. January, I get the email from Jeremy Dunham or whatever saying, hey, do you want to, have an interview tomorrow for the PlayStation team? And I was like, oh, sure. And I remember sending off and I set it all up and whatever. And my girlfriend at the time, she was like, cool. Have you played the PS3 yet? And I was like, oh, fuck. And I called that one friend, and in a blizzard or a snowstorm, drove over there on my Mustang and was like skidding out all over the place and played a whole bunch of crappy ass PS3 launch games with the shitty ass controller.
So that's the thing is I wrote down all the launch titles. We got Call of Duty 3, Genji Days of the Blade, Madden 2007, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Mobile Suit Gundam Crossfire, NBA 07, NBA 2K7, Resistance Fall of Man, Ridge Racer 7, Tiger Woods 07, Tony Hawk's Project 8, and Untold Legends Dark Kingdom. And that was with the six-axis controller.
We don't need Rumble anymore.
Which was a disaster.
Motion's
way
where
too
it's
light.
at. Yeah.
But was a big step up from what we expected to get from the boomerang controller.
Yeah.
Which was like, I remember that E3 seeing when they first were talking about it, I'm just like, Sony, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you got it right with the PS2 and the PS1. Like, just don't give us this bullshit. And then they didn't.
Yeah.
And then eventually it took them a while to bring back the DualShock 3, which
the lawsuit got settled. Yeah, they were able to bring Rumble back to everybody.
There was a bunch of issues there, but yeah, the price point and all that stuff. Like, I remember being like, all right, I'm not getting this for as much as I want it.
Yep.
I'm
and
not
that was the
getting
thing
this
is
for a
like,
long time.
I had been burned, of course, being a fanboy when I was a Sega fanboy. So I was trying not to do that, but that always happens, right? Of like, where I was like, PlayStation 2 is so much superior to Xbox, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they released Xbox 360, and it was a similar thing of like,
I don't have an HD TV and I don't have really good internet, so no, I'm not gonna plug internet at the time, and I wasn't gonna buy the adapter for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that either.
I mean, that's the other thing. The Xbox 360 had a year on this too.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I remember that coming out, and me being a clear Sony guy, I was just like, I'm not getting a 360. Like, there's no way in hell.
Yeah.
I remember I borrowed Current's 360 just to be able to play Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, because I'm like, well, I want to play the best version of it. But besides that, I was like, whatever. Like, I can wait. I want an HD TV to experience this right. Like, I don't want to just like, do some weird makeshift bullshit.
Yeah.
And, but I was like, I'm gonna get a PS3 eventually. Then they announced the price, the controller, and all this stuff, and I was like, until I have a reason, I'm not getting a PS3. And then that reason came, and it was Final Fantasy Versus 13. And I should be playing that game in about 2 weeks, hopefully.
On your PS3, of course, right?
On
Just
my
to keep it-
on my PS3.
keep it lit.
But then no, I've told the story many times, but I traded in a whole bunch of shit to be able to get, and I schemed real hard to get a PS4 when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, which to me was the first like must play title. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, this is worth this system. Uncharted had been out already, and I played it at a GameStop, and I was like, okay, I want this for sure. But I was
Yeah.
like, I can wait. Because like looking at that launch lineup, like many launch lineups, it was fine. It did have Resistance. It had a real solid game to it. But yeah, most of them are the sports titles and just the iterative annualized stuff. But where were you at with it on launch?
I was in college. I couldn't afford it. The price was ridiculous. The PlayStation 3 to me is a story of redemption. I think that, first of all, I've said it before, PlayStation 3 is my favorite PlayStation console. And I had a PS1 since mid-97. I had a PS2 the day it came out. PS4 the day it came out. PSP very early. Vita day it came out, well, before it came out. So I have experience with all of Sony's 6 kind of pieces of hardware, and PS3 is my favorite. And I feel like this is it's a harrowing kind of story that I think has taught lessons to people in the industry about bravado, about expectations, about consistency, about momentum, about how fickle the consumer is, and the consumer should be fickle because it's their money and it's their time and it's their energy that they're kind of putting into this ecosystem. When they announced this console and they revealed the price and were saying what they're saying about it, I'm like, these guys are fucking crazy. I remember being like, it just, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. $600 to me when I was in college was more money than I ever had in my bank account. $600 to me now is not that much money comparatively, but it's still an enormous amount of money. I wouldn't pay $600 for a fucking video game console ever. And in fact, I didn't buy my own PS3 until 2009 because I remember saying on Podcast Beyond, first of all, I was lucky enough to have access to PS3. I basically just had a PS3 at my house anyway. But when Slim came out and it was $300, I'm like, this isn't worth any more than $300 to me, and I will not pay more than $300 for this console.
In the old Beyond days, they asked us, and I mean the original cast, not even before Colin, right? They had asked us, and I put in quotes me, to stop saying that I wouldn't buy the PS3, because every episode I was like, I haven't bought a PS3 yet. I mean, this went on for a year and a half, 2 years. It was that MotorStorm bundle they put out or whatever, where I finally bought a PS3, and it was just like, the library did not justify this price in any way, shape, or form. And it was, I mean, I was taking it home for reviews, but like taking it home and enjoying was like calling all cars. And it was like, this is not worth buying for calling all. So me and Micah can sit around and like calling all cars at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the specific angle that Sony took with this console was disastrous, which I think you saw a direct reflection in how they rolled out PS4, how they priced PS4, how I think they rolled out and priced PS Vita, or VR rather, which was very careful. Vita even was appropriately priced. I think that they learned those particular lessons, that bravado is a killer. PS2 is the best-selling gaming hardware of all time, but whether it's console or handheld, it's never going to be passed. No one's ever going to sell that many consoles or pieces of hardware ever again, not even close. So they had a lot to be proud of, but they also didn't look at why they sold it, sold so many units. I'm very convinced that 50, 60, 70 million of those were sold as DVD players, and a lot of them were sold on the back end when they were very cheap. Remember that there were 3 iterations of the PS2. The super slim PS2 was very late in emerging markets. Brazil was buying it late. Eastern Europe was buying it late. Southeast Asia was buying it late. There was a lot of places where PS2 just kept burning. So I think that the numbers were inflated and gave them a false sense of security. And I think the PlayStation 2 is a great system. The PlayStation 2 is actually my least favorite PlayStation console. And so going into, and I know that's crazy to a lot of people, but it is. I mean, I think GameCube shit on PS2 in terms of games. But from that particular perspective, it's interesting to study the history of it. and figure out, well, how do they get to this point and how do they rectify it? And I think what's really impressive with Sony is that Sony as a corporation started falling apart around PlayStation 3 because they had put so many eggs in that basket. The TV division was failing. They were losing money hand over fist with Vio and all that kind of stuff. They just weren't doing a very good job. And they still managed to really burrow down and fix it to the point where PlayStation 3 sold at parity, if not a little bit better than Xbox 360 with one less year on the market. That's a really impressive thing. I think it netted about 82.5 or 83 million units. That's a lot of units for context. NES, I think, is at 60. So
that's also because they had the 3 different iterations at the right times.
Right, exactly. I think that 2009 introducing, the new one, and then I think 2012 with the George Foreman grill, like they were smart, and I think that the way they nailed it was to kind of withdraw and add components and new interesting things to the console that I think were needed. They they got the PlayStation Store for browser and put it on, made it native on the console. They updated cross media bar and made it the OS quicker. They also did some anti-consumer things. They removed Linux, which really bothered a lot of people. They got rid of the SD reader. They got rid of the USB ports, the backwards compatibility. They did a lot of things to stifle consumers as well. And I think that they did that for component reasons. I think that like they were probably paying licensing on Linux. I think they were probably being like, if we can get rid of the SD reader, it's like going to save us $2 on every console. This is millions of dollars when you're producing consoles at scale. Like, so I think they did these things for a reason. By 2009, 2010, remember 2009 was when we got Uncharted Among Thieves, and I think that Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, I think that's when the console became real to a lot of people. And I also think that by 2010, 2011, 2012, the momentum was all with Sony. I think that the Xbox 360 was very front loaded. It was a very impressive console. I remember my roommate Doug in college got it the day it came out. I remember playing. I'm like, this is really, I've never seen anything like this. A console you can turn on and kind of interact with without playing a game, and apart from just like putting a CD in it or looking at memory card management. So I saw that Sony had a lot to compete with, but by the end of it, by 2013, 2014, the PS3 was definitely the superior console. And I really remain, as a student of the industry, super impressed with this. This is one of the all-time comebacks of a console that really looked like it was fucking dead. Like, I remember after like late 2006, 2007, even 2008, I'm like, this thing's fucked. Like, I can't believe this, that this thing is actually going to... I remember for about a year or so, I was like, this thing's going to fail. Like, the PlayStation 3 is dead. It's just Xbox 360 just trouncing it. And Wii, obviously, we have to remember Wii was a concurrent launch. Wii came out weeks away from PS.
Wasn't it 3 days before?
Yeah, something like it was like right in that window. I mean, and Wii was all the rage. This weak little piece of shit compared to the PS3, but it didn't matter because
the price was right.
The price was right. The games were there. The interest was there, and they turned it around. It reminds me a lot of Super Nintendo battling Genesis. It reminds me a lot of the Wii itself, the Blue Ocean strategy, and the idea to permeate and saturate the market. Well, Sony did a really good job with PS3, and those lessons were learned with PS4, and to focus on games, to focus on exclusives, to get those kinds of things going and operating all as they should in sync. So that's my memory of PlayStation 3, and I think that the library on PS3 is phenomenal.
Well, that's the lesson, right?
If a console ever surpasses, if PlayStation 4 has a library half as good as PS3's, it's in great shape.
That was the thing, though, is like, and I think that's the lesson you see what Microsoft failed with the Xbox One was having a vision and sticking to it. And maybe even to the Xbox 360 to an extent, right? We talked about, when Greg was here, we talked about Xbox Live Arcade and then him leaving and how that's gone off and done its own thing. But that was the thing with PlayStation, where the library is what it was, and that would define that console. And part of that definition is the hardcore fan base that so many of our fans are a part of, and that's part and parcel with Podcast Beyond and being the people on the block who bought this machine and were invested in PlayStation. And you peeled back all the mainstream hangers on, all these people who just got it because it was successful or whatever. They went to Xbox, they went and did their thing. And you had this audience that really fucking cared about video games. And so Sony was able to sit there, and the seeds they had planted with first parties, with worldwide studios, start to pay off, and they start to build this library that is moving units, is engendering this fan base, is enabling them to care about PlayStation and wanting to be a part of it, and go on this different tear with it, and have this groundswell of support, so that there can be something like Journey one day, because we had Super Rub-a-Dub one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have this thing where people are there buying these games. Uncharted comes out and we buy that. I'll never forget seeing Uncharted the first time, being told about Uncharted the first time, and that's so weird now. And I think you look at granted, last generation overall, but especially how Sony handled their first parties. And you see that thing we talked about where I always talk about The Last of Us, that Last of Us was this game proving the fact that you don't need a number at the end of your game. We do have consumers educated enough to understand that, much like Martin Scorsese directs this film, I want to see his next film. They can understand that Naughty Dog made this game. I want to see their next game. And that was that thing of, you see that groundwork and you see those studios step it up, whether it is Naughty Dog, whether it is Sucker Punch. You see these people taking that, Insomniac taking that next step into, we are going to make games that are bigger than just games. You know what I mean? This is Naughty Dog. They had made Jak and Daxter, which was awesome, but I don't think you could have asked most Jak and Daxter players at Jak and Daxter 3 who had made this and what their lineage was, and they would know it for heart. Whereas like when I was on that bus with Jeremy Dunham and Jeff Haynes and Chris Roper, and we were going to the Sony event, and they were like, all right, you're going to cover the Naughty Dog game. And I'm like, who are they? And they made Jak and Daxter. Oh, I love Jak and Daxter. What's this one? It's kind of this Indiana Jones game. It doesn't have a title yet. I was like, oh, okay. And I went and played this game where the water made his jeans look wet. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. No, I mean, we've come so far. Like, looking back, I was watching a Jeremy Parrish video a couple days ago about the Super Nintendo's launch. And it's crazy that, you know, when you look at the launch window of games, like, we're at a point now where video games are so synonymous with just mainstream, like, people play games, that launch lineups are no longer 2 games, 3 games, 5 games, 6 games. It's like, even a not successful launch is 13 games, and with a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And for the console to keep going on, and it's crazy because although then it, to me, was like not worth it, it did immediately hit a point once Metal Gear came out. I'm like, all right, cool, worth it. And by the end of it, it's like, yeah, entirely worth it. There's experiences on this system. And I feel the same way about even something like the Wii U, where it's just like, all right, in the beginning, I don't care, but all it took was 3 experiences to make the console worth it to me.
But I'm sorry.
But with PlayStation 3, like, that was so long of a console run where those games spoke to me. You know, I love Journey, I love Uncharted, I love Last of Us, and those games, as well as all the third party games, that multi-platforms, like, it made it totally worth it. And I've never been and will never be an online shooter guy, which if I was, I would have been on 360 like all my friends were. You know, like Alfredo and Current, they lived on that thing and they loved that thing because it gave them Halo.
And that was what
gave them Call of Duty.
And that was what I'm talking about with a vision and being able to pivot, right? That PlayStation got their teeth kicked in and they were able to pivot and be like, all right, Microsoft's running away with these multiplayer shooters and we're going to try here and there, but we are story-based games. Mm-hmm. We are indies without saying we're indies. We are these smaller games that you can get here that you can't get anywhere else, and we want you to understand that, especially when we are competing with Xbox Live, who is putting out these arcade titles, but they're putting out arcade games in a way that is a AAA strategy, if that makes sense, where they're making a big deal about a few of them, where Sony seems like they pepper it out, all these different little things like The Last Guy or whatever weird-ass PSN game you want to talk about that they tossed out there that you knew you're going to get something quirky at least every month, if not every week.
Yeah, no, man, it's definitely, it's crazy to look at the library now, and I feel like an important thing to note about last gen was the amount of new IPs that came out of it. Like when you were talking about Uncharted, Little Big Planet, Infamous, like
PlayStation Home.
And PlayStation Home. It's impressive,
SingStar.
especially when you look at PS4 now, and it's
Going
just like,
to online.
What new franchises has it brought to the table, you know?
Yeah, no, that's
and granted,
the thing.
it's still early-ish, but it's getting to the point that it's not.
Well, this is what we just talked about on PS I Love You, right? The identity crisis PlayStation's in the way that it is very much, it isn't. Hey, here's this new thing. We're not doing the PS3 model of like, here's a million different reasons like we're doing crazy cool shit here. They're doing cool shit, but it's not, it is a new God of War. Okay, cool. We're still doing that. All right, great, whatever. You know what I mean? And then it's like Naughty Dog's next game we assume is going to be Last of Us 2. And then, you know, where does it go? What is Sucker Punch working on?
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the PS1 to PS2, where it was just kind of like, here's games and here's maturing those games. And then PS3, now it's here's maturing those games. Is this the end of the line, or will there be something later? Who knows? But it's really impressive to look back at the Boomerang controller and the Killzone 2 trailer and being like, this is too good to be true. And it was, but to be at a point now where it's like, oh no, that's what we have now. Like with the PS4, we're finally getting the things that we were promised. Like with that Agent 8 trailer. Remember that? I remember looking at that and being like, holy crap, video games can do this? And it's like, now they can. So anyway, shout out to you, PS3.
What up, Heavenly Sword?
You did good.
Heavenly Sword was very good.
Heavenly Sword.
I liked Heavenly Sword a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the first like great
Patch
exclusive.
it with trophies.
Yeah, I was surprised that they never did that. I was disappointing.
The next topic, as always, brought to you by you over at the Kind of Funny forums. You can go to kindoffunny.com/Gamescast topic just like my boy Doug Chin, aka Dougser, did. Shout out
What
to
up,
you,
Big
dude.
Dougs?
He's from San Francisco. I went to high school with him.
Oh, really?
No big deal.
Is this the Doug you lived with?
No,
Okay.
different dog.
My first system was a Sega Game Gear. My uncle bought it for my 7th birthday. I remember playing a Ninja game on it for a few days. My parents really didn't like anything about it, and the fact that it was mobile, bad quality games, and graphics, so they returned it and bought me a Sega Genesis instead. Now I'm currently using a PS4 to play the majority of my games. My question is, do you think that the original console you grew up with playing as a child influences what side of the console wars you'll be on? What was each of your first systems? My first system that I owned myself was a Super Nintendo, but in my house, my dad had a Commodore 64. So that's like the first thing I grew up playing. But Kevin had the NES, and like that was like the first game system that I really got into playing. So like from pretty early on, I was a Nintendo guy, and that really did stick. And then the PlayStation thing came along like once Crash Bandicoot came into my life, and it was just pretty much, all right, cool, I like this stuff. And Xbox just never hit, and it's like when it came to the Nintendo versus Sega, I liked Sonic, so I didn't have anything. I wasn't so like fanboy where I was like, fuck you, this is better than yours. But it was so clear to me that Mario was better that I'm just like, all right, cool, I like both, but I like Mario more. Like I couldn't imagine anyone liking Sonic more, liking
I mean,
Sega
you had to.
more.
That's what it was. That's
Yeah.
what you had. That's how fanboyism works. And that's how schoolyard shit works. Where it's like, yeah, my first system was a Sega Master System, and that put into me me ignoring Nintendo until N64. That was my first Nintendo. It's the Game Boy, but do we count the Game Boy? I loved my Game Boy, but I don't know if that works. My first Nintendo console was the N64, and it was one of those things of, video games to me were the introduction of. I saw Ghostbusters, asked what that was, got it for my birthday, went off to the races with Master System, and then one day went to Travis's house in our neighborhood, and he was playing Mario. His brother was playing Mario. I'm like, what is this? Like, it's Nintendo. I'm like, what is that? And this thing is my, and then they came over like, what is this? I'm like, it's Sega. It's blah blah. And they're like, I've never heard of this thing. And then they insult you and you insult them, and then right there, that's how it is. You know what I mean? There's no room for me as like whatever 5 or 6 to have objectivity here. I'm like, let me see this Mario game.
Yeah,
Run me through why this is better. Oh shit, you're right. This is way better.
That to me is what's surprising. So when I was younger, it was kind of just like, even to me, so obvious that Nintendo was better that I'm like, whatever. And I was just happened to be on the right side of that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later with the Xbox, PS2, GameCube generation where I was lucky enough to have all three just over time. Like eventually it happened. Loved the hell out of my GameCube. The first party games were fantastic. My PS2 was my multi-platform system of choice. And in addition to the Ratchet and Clanks and the first party and second party games that they had. But the Xbox, like I couldn't deny that I loved Halo. Like Halo 1 and 2 were awesome, and I was so into those. For some reason I played the Prince of Persia games on those systems, and Splinter Cell was great, and Knights of the Old Republic. But besides that, I'm like, how could anyone defend the Xbox?
Yeah.
Like, it's like
Stubbs the zombie. You left Stubbs the zombie.
I left it off for a reason.
No, because you just didn't play. You didn't understand.
I played Stubbs
You
the
didn't
zombie.
understand the high level concept here of him going after his girlfriend. He was dead. Did you understand?
He was
this?
dead. He was dead. But no, the Xbox was one of those things where I'm like, I get it. I get why it's great, but there's no argument to be made that it's better than the PS2 or the GameCube. Like, are you crazy? And I'll never freaking forget this guy, Bruce, that used to work with Alfredo at Best Buy. We did a road trip down to LA one time, and we got into this heated discussion where he's trying to tell me that the Xbox was better. I'm like, and that's when I realized that like this shit was real. Because like he was just trying to defend the Xbox's library as being so superior that there's not even any way you could look at it that the PS2 or GameCube were better. And
He's like, bro, we got Jade Empire 9.9 IGN.com.
Nah, that was when I realized like I do have my fanboyism, because I was just like, fuck that. Nah, as much as I like your shit, you're wrong, you motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, that's just how it was. I remember that's just how you reacted to being challenged or new things, at least in my thing. Whereas like Poe and I, our friendship's based on video game football, right? Maddens and such, college footballs. And I remember the first time we went to Patrick Fanella's house, and he had just bought the PlayStation, and they had whatever game day it was, and it was playing, and like when X triangle circle pops up, and that's like another language. You're like, what the fuck is this shit?
God.
What are you doing? What is this? This isn't how this works. Like immediately we're like, ha ha. Like poo-pooed it, you know what I mean? Like, well, this thing sucks. Clearly, look at how boxy their heads are.
When you're playing on the Xbox, but you're used to playing on PS2, it's like,
right,
press X, and I'm like, that ain't my X.
Yeah.
That ain't my X.
Get out of here with this garbage.
What will you call?
I mean, Nintendo flows through my veins forever because of starting. NES was my first console that I owned. We had an Atari 2600 too. That was my brother's. Yeah, I mean, I'm always gonna. I call myself a reformed Nintendo fan now, but I mean, that's where I started. I was a fucking massive Nintendo fanboy for a very long time, long after I joined the PlayStation ecosystem too, because I had a PS1, PS2, everything, I had a PSP, everything, go on and on. But I really loved Nintendo, so I think that I have a soft spot for them, and I think that's because of the way I began. I knew the guys next door to me that I grew up with had a Master System, had a Genesis, so I got to, and they had a shit ton of games too. I remember playing a lot of those games, but it just wasn't. It wasn't for me. I thought the Genesis was strange. I remember there was a few games on there that I was really into with like Phantasy Star and stuff like that, but I was just like, this is a weird console. I feel like this isn't even a real thing. You know? Like that's kind of how I really felt about it. I was like, what is this? A Master System. I never saw a Master System with my own two eyes after that ever again, except for until I was an adult. Like that might as well have been like the only Master System in existence. I never heard anyone ever talk about that thing, except for the guy that owned it. He didn't even like it. You know, it was like in his room because he was the youngest, and the Genesis was in like another room, and the NES was in another room. So, yeah. So I one thing I know for sure is that I always kind of looked at Sega a little skeptically. I owned a Dreamcast. I had a Genesis too, but I owned a Dreamcast, and that was the only console of theirs that I was like I really loved it. The Genesis was like fine. I mean, it was a kind of a poor man's Super Nintendo to me.
Mr. Bushido says, "Hey, kind of funny dudes. My question is about gameplay. To me, the only two really perfected gameplay types and genres are platformers and shooters. Why is that? Yeah, I'm a big fan of fantasy games, but oftentimes the gameplay is subpar. I really love the world of Dragon Age Inquisition, but kept getting bored because of the simplistic, repetitive gameplay. Even a game like Skyrim, which is amazing, and I love that game, it was despite the simple, clunky combat and more because of exploration in the world itself.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Do you think other genres could ever be as tight or entertaining with the moment-to-moment gameplay like shooters and platformers? Will it take perfect VR and motion control to ever achieve my dream of perfect fantasy gameplay? Where are the Star Wars lightsaber simulators? Come on, guys."
We can't toss that. I mean, like when he's talking about these fantasy games, he's talking about these giant open world RPGs, right? The reason that falls apart moment to moment is because you have to get from place to place. You can't be teleported around. That is immersion breaking, right? When you're Geralt and you're running around and you're fucking witchering it up, you want to witcher it up. And part of it is the journey of like, think of it like with Zelda Summer Breeze, where they're talking about anything you see you can go to. You can go up the fucking mountain over there that's got a goofy ass name. You like part of that is that when you get to the top of the mountain, you look back like, man, I did all that. I went all that way. And like when you're playing Witcher, even if it is you're fast traveling around, you got to those points. So there is that moment of like, fuck, I've unlocked all this. This is how big this world is. And those games, you know, when you talk about a Witcher, when you talk about a Fallout, when you talk about a Skyrim, you are talking about the world you're in and how alive it feels and what's happening in it and the overarching plot. When you talk about Mega Man, you're talking about how great the gameplay is and how awesome it is to jump from this to do that and how great it feels. And same thing with a shooter, right? Colin talks about Call of Duty and why he loves Call of Duty. He talks about how it feels, that every game should play this way because you're being funneled around and you're going to where you need to go. Even now, it's a cool thing of getting to select the mission. But once you're in the mission, like the mission's the mission, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to go through because they want you in this action game going. And like you can stop like I do. And like I was talking about earlier, and, you know, go and explore the moon visitors bureau here or whatever. But you're still moving through this thing where they can make things happen to make it go, to make you go, holy shit, what a great explosion. Oh my God, this robot's crashing through the wall. Whereas with The Witcher, that's impossible. You can't be, it's not impossible, but it's way harder to be like, all right, if he comes all the way over here, we'll have something explode out of this wall.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing to think about. I think that because shooters and platform games are so kind of intrinsically gameplay oriented, where it's just like every single thing you do is led by inputs that you're doing, whereas a lot of the other genres are kind of just story driven, or it's like when you look at the genres, what's the most important thing about it? When you look at the ones that we're talking about, it is the gameplay. When you look at those, it is the story. You look at Uncharted, it's like, what's the most important thing about it? The gameplay or the experience? I think the clear, easy answer is the experience.
Sure.
But I think other genres like rhythm games, they're pretty much there with the gameplay like that. But that's the thing is, it's like it's a genre by genre kind of question. I don't think fantasy games or RPGs or any of that will ever do that because those are about the experience, not about the gameplay.
Interesting, yeah. I would say even too with like the rhythm games too, I think people would be quick to say, well, they're not perfected, right? because of X, Y. They can get frustrating. I think it is one of those things that you can memorize a song in Rock Band or whatever, or you can memorize a DDR move, but that is such a different skill level. Where in a shooter, there is more leniency. Even in Mega Man, there is more right. You can get hit a few times before it's all fucked up. Whereas with like a Rock Band, there might be some bridge I fuck up 3 times in the song as it comes through over and over and over again. And that's on me, but it feels way more frustrating and not perfected.
I think 2D platforms specifically are pure gameplay, and I think that they're never going to be bested from that perspective. But I think that you're seeing, obviously, there's shooters that feel great, as we were saying. It always kind of astounds me when I play a 2D platformer or a shooter that doesn't feel right, because I'm like, there's so many examples of how to do this, and I don't understand what you don't get about that. As far as I think that there's some great gameplay being found in third-person games too, even in RPGs. I think Kingdoms of Amalur is a great example of an open world, very nerdy role-playing game that is about combat. It isn't about the story, and it isn't about anything else except for playing it. Even though there's plenty of this to do in the game, that's a broken clocks right twice a day situation, but they do exist. So don't write them off completely. I also think Infamous is another example of a third-person game that feels awesome. So I think that. Vanquish, I mean, they exist. So I think it goes out of those two spheres. But I do agree that the 2D platformers specifically, 3D platformers to an extent, but not really. 2D platformers and shooters, first-person shooters, are the king and queen, let's say, of genres.
Fighting games.
Fighting games, yeah.
Put them in that category.
Absolutely,
as well.
You're absolutely right. That's another great example. And some games get it right and some games get it wrong. And they're similar to Call of Duty versus Battlefield, similar to all these kinds of things. There's different feels to Arc Systems games as opposed to Capcom games, etc. So.
Let's see.
Get ready to go. Hip hop with no.
Jake says, hey guys, I was just thinking about YouTube gaming and would like to hear you guys do a retrospective now that, if you can believe it, it launched over a year ago on August 26, 2015. It was kind of exciting to see how the launch would play out and what it would mean for Twitch a year later, and I don't know if it really changed things all that much. Do you guys ever use it personally or visit the site/content regularly? Would be interested to hear your thoughts. So here's something that I've been spewing for a long time.
Spew.
I think people's understanding of what YouTube gaming is from the beginning has been wrong. Before they announced it, I was wrong myself. I thought it was going to be a Twitch competitor.
Yeah.
But it became very clear talking to Fwiz over at YouTube and talking to all of the YouTube people and seeing how they're using it, that it is just their live platform and their gaming YouTube content in a different wrapper.
Sure.
It is for people that live and breathe YouTube, which are people, YouTube gaming Let's Play videos, which are people that are 13 to 20 and that just grow up watching Minecraft videos, you know? And to them, it's awesome. And YouTube gaming is used. If you look at the stats, it's used a lot. People just assume it's not because they don't use it. Because you guys are using Twitch or you're using YouTube or you're playing games yourself and not doing these things. But you can, like, kind of funny, it's on YouTube Gaming. Any YouTube channel you can think of, it's YouTube Gaming. You just need to, I forgot what it was, but type in gaming.youtube.com/kindoffunny or /kindoffunnygames. It just makes it look different and it makes it a little bit more accessible for the type of content that you'd be consuming if you make a lot of Let's Play videos. In terms of, is it a success or not? I mean, it's made their YouTube's live platform a lot better. Does it rival Twitch? No, not at all. It's taking them really long to kind of add a lot of functions that are necessary, like the moderation shit that they just recently added for comments and stuff. And does that work? No. People hate it. It's stupid. It's totally getting in the way and not working the way it's supposed to. And it's getting in the way of getting the right content to be promoted. But YouTube gaming, it is what it is. I don't think that they could have beat Twitch as much as I wish that they would. But there's a lot of success to be had there, and I like that now they're finally putting a lot of effort towards premium content with the Jeff Keighley YouTube Prime thing or whatever. I forgot what it was called. I don't know.
YouTube Gaming, the show that's on every Thursday. I forget what it's called.
And they're actually picking different YouTube creators and focusing on promoting them. It's just YouTube Gaming is important whether or not you realize or care about it, because it is taking gaming content and giving it focus on YouTube. YouTube is about music. YouTube is about lifestyle stuff. Gaming is a huge vertical there, and it is giving people like us the ability to get on the front page and to be featured by YouTube themselves, and that's huge. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bigger deal for sure when it came out, and at the very least, I thought it would be a huge kick in Twitch's ass to really shake things up and really step up their game and really take that Amazon money they got and invest and go and do this. And granted, it's a better experience on Twitch than it was, a year ago, but it's not
leaps and bounds better. You know what I mean?
Yep. Dub Chaos says, hey guys, I'm an indie dev, and while I've listened to the shows before, I recently picked up the habit of listening to them while working. I tend to easily get distracted, so your shows not only help me focus, but also keep my mind set in the game industry, so thank you for that. My question is, how do I get my game noticed by people, by the media specifically? I thought you two have a lot to kind of say to this because you've dealt with PR people for so long.
Sure. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that the conundrum that indie devs have, I'm not in media anymore, so I don't get the emails I used to get, is you have to kind of thoughtfully do it without spamming people, without reach out to the right people. The guys at Yacht Club, for instance, had talked openly about how they identified me very early on in the development of the game as a person that they wanted to go to with it, and they did, because they understood my roots and that the game would resonate with me, and therefore I would talk about it, and it worked, exactly to their plan, because I fell in love with that game very quickly. I am of the mind, and I know that this is a harsh thing to say, but it is the reality. Good games don't stay hidden. There's no hidden gem out there that no one knows about. Like, if your game's good, someone's probably going to notice it. And I know that's not the case in like maybe the phone space, and maybe not even wholly in the PC space, but certainly in the console space. Hidden games, there are no hidden games on PSN that no one knows about. Like, these things spread around, and so I think I know that indie developers and games generally live and die on these first 10 days, first 2 weeks sales. But I do also believe that there are games on the back end that once things organically spread around, if your game's really good and it gets on PSN or it gets on Xbox Live and maybe even gets on Steam, people are going to notice it. It's important to get preview coverage if you really want to. It's important to get people to notice the game, but I don't think that's necessarily the be all end all. Make a great game and someone's going to find it. I mean, it's just totally inevitable, and that happens time and time again on PSN specifically, where games come out and I'm like, what the fuck is this game? And then someone's like, no, that game's actually really great, and you go back and you're like, oh, it is really great. So I know that that's not a catch-all. I know that there are games that slip through the cracks, but generally speaking, I've never heard of anyone find a game 5 years later and be like, why did no one talk about this game 5 years ago? And I'm like, because it's not good, and people would have figured that out already. So I think it's a little easier than you might think, a little more intuitive.
Yeah, I mean, the answer I think for an indie developer in particular is, and I know this isn't what you want to hear, but you go small. You are a small game. Target the small audiences and go from there. So many people I've made this game, which is a success amongst itself that you finished a game. That's awesome. You worked 2 years on it, so you want it on IGN, you want it on GameSpot, you want it on all these different things, and those are the ones that get 14,000 emails a day, and it's so hard. So unless you're going to investigate and know that there's a Colin there or a Marty there, and they love these kind of games, and then you know them or you're able to hit them up, that's a struggle, right? Like, in the reverse is the fact of the Vita Lounge. I mean, there is a magazine and website about the Vita. Like, no matter what you are into, no matter what type of game you're in, there is an audience for it, and there is a passionate fan base for that. Mm-hmm. Similar with what we have with our best friends, right? Of like, we're not the biggest site or YouTube channel by any stretch of the imagination, but our audience is so powerful and so into it that's how it happens. And that's the thing where it's like, I sent you that code yesterday for that adventure game that they're calling a weird one for Vita. Thanks, voice control. That's exactly what I wanted, of course, you piece of fucking garbage. I can't ever, I don't even know how to, you're supposed to pronounce it. Have a good name for your game, but Dimitras or whatever, this quirky adventure game for Vita, right? Where the guy was complaining openly on Twitter that is, so how do I'm an indie dev, I put this on a Vita and nobody wants to cover it from the big sites. And somebody's like, well, what about Greg? He's a big fan. He's like, I didn't know. And it's like, that was enough that I got it, and I got the codes and gave them to Colin and I to play and screw around with. I don't know if we'll ever talk about the game. I don't know if it's good. I haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
But like, that's how it goes, right? That you start smaller, and then if it was that we loved it and we started beating the drum about it and it was a great game, of course we would then tell Marty not to cover it, but in conversation at a bar or something, and then IGN's interested. But it's the same way of like, if you're making a game like Gone Home, Marty Sleewood loves those kind of games, you'd hit him up. Yep. And it's always hit somebody up personally. Don't send out the form letter with the screenshots embedded and all that other bullshit then, because you just get tossed out the side unless you look through them and think they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the other side of it where, not for games, but for making videos, like I have a lot of experience trying to, pre-IGN even, like when I was nothing, it was just like, okay, cool, how do I become something? How do I get people, the big guys, to care about me? And it was really spending a lot of time thinking about what your plan is, who you're sending it to, and why, and what's the messaging there. Mm-hmm. Like, even to this day, I still have to do this type of stuff. But I'll never forget, even at IGN, like with the Avengers boy band video, I was like, all right, cool, I made this. who is my audience for this? I'm not just going to send it to literally everybody because that's annoying and that's spam and people don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to target the places that I know posted things similar before, and I'm going to write them a message that, yeah, the bulk of it might be copy and pasted, but at least some of the message is directed to a person with a direct call to action based on that person. So them reaching out to you about Shovel Knight, that makes so much sense. You know, for me, I knew that Kotaku would, when I did the Macklemore Game Shop video, they post fun things like this. So I'm like, cool, I need to target the people that post the fun things, send it to them. And once Kotaku posts it, IGN will see it. IGN looks at Kotaku. You know what I mean? Like that, you got to think that way where it really does snowball. And once one person talks about it, it's all, everyone else is gonna start. And the most important thing is to condense your message as much as possible. Don't write a whole press release that's boring as fuck that nobody cares about of just like why your game's awesome. Show them why your game is awesome. Have a GIF, one GIF that's just showing a cool mechanic in the game. Because when people open that email, it'll catch their attention. They'll be like, oh, that does look cool. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, that's what happened with on PS I Love You XOXO last week, I guess, by the time this post, right? Like it was, a guy hit me up right before the show about, hey, my game's coming to PSX. And he had 2 screenshots and I was like, holy shit, this game looks awesome. And then read the little description he gave and I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah, I'll talk about this in the show. And we should do this every time. Everybody who's like, we should pick a game every week that's at PSX that you don't know about that looks cool.
Yep. And then that goes such a long way. It's just like make the message simple, always have a call to action, and really double down on that shit. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 94 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Thank you very much for your adventures with us. Till next time.